All right. Welcome to the Moat, where we break down real business decisions and the problems behind them. Every week, we find real businesses, real numbers, and real stakes, and show you how to build a business competitors can't easily copy, take, or kill. I'm Sam Robinson.
And I'm Kyle Harbaugh. And this is
Let's
the
build a
Moat.
moat. Yes. All right.
All right, Sam. Well, good to have you here. I'm sorry that you don't have real coffee. You got to have instant coffee.
That's how people want it nowadays. They like things instantly answered like AI. So, why not switch to instant coffee? It just
Yep.
happens to be that I'm out of my nice, foo-foo coffee that I like to drink on a daily basis.
Yeah, I that's a bummer, man. I have a I don't know, probably like 5 big bags in my deep freeze. So I have lots of different options, and I coffee's important for me too. So I feel your pain.
I had I ordered Costa Rican coffee. My local Trader Joe's doesn't carry Costa Rican coffee anymore.
Oh, bummer.
So my favorite is Costa Rican coffee. So I was on Amazon today going through a bunch of different brands and trying to decide which one I wanted. I ended up landing on like a peaberry type of coffee from Costa Rica. And it'll be here tomorrow. So maybe on the next mode, I'll be drinking a little bit of that.
If you ever want coffee or explore coffee, I have a guy I work out with, and his name, because I do have three, his name is Mr. Coffee,
it's
because
it's not Joe for just like get your average cup of Joe.
no, it's Mr. Coffee because
Mr. Coffee, I
he
love it.
like sources and roasts his own coffee. He's got his own like
Ooh.
little coffee company on the side.
Hey, sometimes having a local business or a side hustle is a way to scale up even while you're working in corporate America. It's like you got your normal job, and then it's like you've got your things that you are very passionate about that you really enjoy, and you're like, why not make money along with the enjoyment?
Yeah,
It funds vacations, right?
right. Yeah, and that's exactly what this is. He actually works for a coffee company, and he
Mm.
goes, "Hey, if we did it this way and we brought in this process and we roasted like this, it would be like a lot higher quality." And they're like, "No, we're not doing that. That's like too much added expense." And he's like, "It really wouldn't be. It would be a little bit tougher. Like it would be a few extra steps, but it wouldn't be that big." They're like, "No, we're not doing it." And he's like, "All right, I guess I'm gonna just do it on the side because I want like that would be important to me, and I want to enjoy good coffee." And so he spun up his own side hustle.
Well, and the thing is that like there's a lot of these brands that were spun up. I'm thinking, oh shoot, what's the name of it? I was in Alaska,
Mm,
and it was like Ravenclaw or something like that. Was one of the tastes they had, but they had a bunch of different flavors, but they were out of Alaska,
mm.
and I was like, let me try the coffee. And I tried the coffee. It was really good coffee. And I've ordered a couple of those just for like friends. I'll just and you can buy them off Amazon now. They didn't used to be on Amazon. You'd have to like go to Alaska to get them. And then they started like only online, and now they're on Amazon.
So is it coffee grown in Alaska, or is it coffee that was sourced from someplace else, but the company is in Alaska?
That's a great question. I'm on Amazon right now, trying to do the like Alaska coffee, um, and it's like this. Like they got all these different blends. Yeah, Ravens Brew, and it wasn't Ravenclaw, Ravens Brew, and they've got like all sorts of different like and interesting ones. So like I know you like dark roast.
Hmm, hmm.
The one that's on Amazon right now, Dead Man's Reach. Great name for the coffee, and it's a dark roast, sweet and bitter on there. But I've not had bad coffee from them. They are great. I personally had the Bruin blend. That's good. And then and their house blend, as well as a few others that I really liked from them. But I would say, like, you know, start small. Start with something that you really like, and the chances are, if you really like it, other people might really like it too.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, let's get into our show. So this is the Moat, and it's a live show. And if you're watching here live, we would love to hear from you. You can leave us a comment in the chat, and we will read it. You got questions about your business, or you got questions about another business? We'd love to speak to them, do our best to answer them live here on the call. If you don't want to have us answer the question live, or maybe it's a bit too long for this format, we'd love to have a chat with you. Schedule a call with our team. I'm going to leave a link in the chat right now. So if you want to schedule time with our team, you can. So all right, that's there now. Sam wanted to get into our first topic.
Okay.
We're going to be talking about Google, but I mean,
There's all
it's
sorts of
hard.
things going on with Google right now too.
There's a ton of stuff going on with Google. This one is interesting though. I didn't see this one. So it says Google wants to own the entire shopping journey. From search to checkout, Google is building a path from product discovery inside search and Gemini to straight through to checkout with brands including Nike, Sephora, Target, Ulta, Walmart, and Shopify merchants already
Mm.
integrated. The purchase friction is collapsing, making execution, not campaign management, the new commodity.
It's interesting. Google. We talked last week about, like, Google essentially being dethroned, and the reality is that there's a lot of restructuring going on, no matter where you are, um, both on the AI space and the search space. There's a lot there. One of the biggest things that I'm seeing is that, how do we one of the questions that I'm seeing them trying to answer is, how do we find somebody, okay, find a business that was searched for, that's associated with, find an associated business from the search, and then not only get the right text and information, but also structure in a way that makes sense to the individual asking the question. It They figured it out when they first came, when Google first came out. They made their searches better and better and better and better, and then people just now just like, well, Google it.
Right. It's pretty ubiquitous. It's almost like Kleenex or Xerox or these other giant brands that now the function is the brand name.
Correct. And so what I would say is that, from Google's standpoint, they have to figure out how to translate that information in a different way now. The search has changed. People are asking a question and they're expecting a formatted answer, not just a list of search results. Like, I could care less about, and this is something that we talked about more in depth about, productized searches, and something that I feel like Shopify could capitalize in on too, from like an AI type of experience. But this is something that, like, people are going to start to care less about the search results, and they're going to care more about the answers that they're looking for. And the real issue is that, with no matter what AI that you're on, because a lot of the searches are starting to come from AI. There's been actually a flip flop recently, with people using AI because they have free access now to a lot of these models. Not frontier models, but like the past models that were considered frontier that are search enabled. And so, like, if I can get on there and I can get an answer that's pretty quick, like, I'm going to do it that way. It's just, sometimes having a conversation, be like, look, hey, what's this? Versus, I got to put 5, 10 pieces together to be able to get the actual answer that I'm looking for. I don't want to
Yes.
do that. I want to shorten the amount of time that I'm searching for something so I can move on to something else.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point, and I think it's interesting that they're looking at where can we shift, what adjacent markets can we move into, or new features, different approaches that maybe weren't a viable option before, but now are becoming a more viable option because technology has changed or buying behavior has changed. Something has shifted where it makes more sense, or maybe they're just it's been a viable option for a while, but now they need to shift and think how to grow their business.
Yeah, and the thing is that like Google's huge, right? Like it's one of the top tech companies. When you think of like tech companies, you're thinking like Apple, Google, etc.
Right.
And the reality is that Google's business model has shifted over those last 20 years too. They are not just a search engine anymore. In
Right.
fact, they just like Amazon, they make a lot of money from their uh, um, uh, from basically the marketplace, and people are purchasing things. People have this affiliate program, etc. But they also have AWS and a lot of other businesses that are making money for them. One of the things that they said, so Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk said it very similarly. Even Tim Cook briefly commented in this, basically and summarizing all of them. What they were talking about is swinging for the fences. It's
Mm.
like I've got the money, and I can get up there, and I can put some money down. I can swing for the fences in each one of these, and the odds are in my favor because you can hit a home run.
Right.
And it's like if you get a base hit, if it's good or bad, and you're like, okay, it was okay, but for this very specific niche market, and it was not profitable. Goodbye. I can try again. So you try and try again. And the reality is that if I'm talking baseball terms, even if you only hit one home run a year, that is still a grand slam in business. Like that is like if you hit it out of the park, you now potentially have a multi-million dollar company, potentially billion-dollar company or greater. And so we're seeing that hit more out of the park on the tech side than we are physical products. So digital versus physical, we're seeing more of that hit out of the park. So a lot of people are starting to roll up physical service businesses as one type of service, serving their individual markets that they're already branded. So it's very interesting what Google's doing because they've got tons of different deep infrastructure that is like, hey, I mean, quite literally, like I remember years ago when I first started getting logged into Google, I was like, what's the admin console? It's like,
Mm.
oh, there's stuff in the back here. Oh, I can mess with like all these different cool settings, and then it's like, oh well, we have like tons and tons and tons of other connections to tons of other services that we offer. I'm like, I never even heard of these. Like this is like more than a decade ago, and it was very interesting. Of like, it's like, oh, this new thing came out, this new thing came out, this new thing came out, and so the reality is that the these things that Google has done, they've hit other home runs. So even if search went away, they have other things that they can rely on. So point point made.
Hmm.
There was a big decision about Google Chrome of that they had to sell it because there was basically too much of a monopoly in the marketplace. Well, they did make a lot of money on it, but it wasn't all of their income, right? They weren't quote unquote like it wasn't the only source of revenue.
Right.
And so with them having to offload that, it's like, okay, well, we've got all this other revenue over here. It sucks that this happened, but like, we'll petition to say that AI is taking away that part of the marketplace, and we'll come back to it later or something like that.
Mm.
So I think it's really interesting with that decision.
Yeah. And so one drawback to the moat lesson that we found really interesting about this article, talking about how they're managing the relationship more is when a platform removes friction between discovery and purchase, whoever owns the customer relationship before clicking wins. Your email list, your community, the brand loyalty that you've already established is even more valuable. It's even more valuable than your Google ranking. Um, so, if you are building strong brand loyalty, that's a relationship you need to guard, and it can be very very sticky. It can be very very valuable. It can be a moat.
Correct. And on that same note, we're going to see the rise of trends in like data trends. So like and so what I mean here's like one particular instance I mean by that. It's not as prevalent right now, but let's say for instance you have a business, you've been sending emails, and all of a sudden you get blacklisted. You know, someone's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, this is spam. I absolutely hate you. Like, why the heck did you send me this?" And or like you have one bad apple that you sent it to, and all of a sudden you haven't had anyone saying, yeah, this is actually acceptable. I haven't added you. You know, there's no data that Google has to say that you are not someone that's in spam. And then now you have to work to try to get that off of there and have other people to add you, and so you don't end up in the spam folder anymore.
Yep.
So that's just one particular instance, just on email alone, that we're going to see data trends. So let's say, for instance, like maybe you are, trusted in the marketplace, but a lot of people haven't, mark you as trusted. Well, a lot of the, API, maybe you have an API that you send a lot of data through, and you're on GitHub, but you have a lot of, have a few bad apples on there, or maybe you have a competitor that is running an agent that just gets you a bunch of like basically downgrades your repo and has a bunch of bogus comments that are actually real.
Mm.
And like, or a post like maybe like you post like a bunch of issues to a product that doesn't exist, and those and that's going to start to become prevalent. It's not there quite yet, but like there are people that are making comments and stuff like that are going to turn people away from your product and service. I mean, from real point of view, it's already on Google Maps. Like you go and look at a business, you can see like the worst comments about a business. You're like, okay, well, anyway, more
Yeah.
comments on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Well, hey, if you're enjoying this, we'd love to hear from you. Leave your comment in the chat. This is a live show. We want to interact with you guys who are watching. So leave a comment. Let us know you're watching. If you have any questions about your business or another business, we'd love to speak to them. And then if you'd like to speak privately, we also have a link in the chat to book time with our team, and we can answer your questions privately. Um, so, Sam, this is a terrible year for an IPO. At least that's what the CEO of Databricks, billion-dollar company, is saying, that this is an absolutely terrible year. But we know some big guys have IPO'd this year, like you know, uh, Elon Musk has taken SpaceX. We're expecting some other really big IPOs to happen this year. Um, why is it so terrible?
So, great question. So, I just want to say this is not financial advice in any way, shape, or form for a business. But what I would say is when you IPO, you definitely want the attention.
Yeah.
You need the attention because it has to do with the share price. It really
Yep.
has to do with like quote unquote shareholder value. It's perceived. There's a lot of perceived value, and a lot of the market has shifted from actual value to perceived value.
Yes.
So one of the best examples that I've seen as of like maybe the last couple months is they showed like a pint glass of a beer. It's like here's my actual value is the beer, but the foam is the perceived value. And a lot of times that if you have no perceived value, people think that they're not getting everything that they expected out of it. It's like, well, why is my glass, partly filled? It's not filled all the way up to the top. I was like, well, sorry, that's the whole drink. And so the reality is that there's a lot of foam in these IPOs. Most again, this is usually, not always. Most oftentimes than not, when you go to IPO, it dips down because a lot of hype, a lot of hype, a lot of hype, and then all of a sudden the foam goes down, and then you got the dip. And so that happens more often than not. Again, usual generic probabilistic answer there. But what I would say that's more specific, that when you are thinking about your business and you're wanting to go public, there's a lot of itty gritty that you have to deal with. There's a lot of different types of conversations you have to. There's all sorts of compliance procedures you have to go through. And then by the end of it, then you go public, and then you've got a public opinion. So it's really important for the perceived value. However, perceived value has to do with attention, and attention, there's only so much of it. So what
And
happens when you have all the air sucked out of the room, you can't breathe, and it's
right.
very hard to do that as a business. It would almost be better just to push it back another 12 months and go then.
And not only attention, but money. So like a lot of these big funds, they want to get a stake in Anthropic or OpenAI or SpaceX, and so they need to sell something. They need to sell, make get some cash, and so they need to sell something, and then they need to shift their holdings to that new stack that's being offered, and so there's only so much money to go around, and people are going to make shifts. But if you have a bunch of people already interested and excited about SpaceX, and then you're IPOing this year, you're not
Yeah.
SpaceX or Anthropic, like there's only so much money to go around.
Well, and the reality is that, and again, this is a personal opinion from my own buying journey, is that most of the decisions are made at the fund level versus the individual level.
Hmm.
So it's like, well, let's say for instance, I had $1 million to go and put into it, and another fund's got a couple $1 billion to put into it. Like who's going to get the better price, or who's going to get the better positioning, who's going to get the better information. There's a lot of different questions that I ask myself in regards to that in my own personal buying journey. Um, so what I would say is, like, as a business, again, this is more of a this is more of a marketing question. This isn't even really a financial question at all.
Yeah.
In fact, like, not to ignore the finance completely, but from a marketing perspective entirely, all the time and attention sucked out of the room. So it's like if I'm paying attention to SpaceX, and it's like, hey, he's going to go to the moon. Hey, he's going to go to Mars. It's like, to the moon. It's like, well, wait, hold on. What about this, like, non-sexy company that we haven't even heard about in the news?
Right.
Or maybe there was a few articles posted about it, but it wasn't a couple hundred, and it wasn't everyone singing from the rooftops about it. So now I've got, like, significantly less percentage of attention, even if, like, so if it was a quiet news day. So let's say, for instance, again, all probability here. So if it was a quiet news day and I only have, maybe 5 or 10 things to talk about at most, or maybe only 2 things to talk about, you know, and I have a headline out there for my company, and I'm one of 2 or one of 5, that's pretty decent. I like my chances there. But if I'm just like the ticker on the bottom of the screen just rolling by, hey, Acme Co, becoming public,
Right.
no one's going to react to that. I'm sorry, you might as well have just been hidden.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
might as well have just not even
It's
publicized at all.
unless people are already aware that you exist, it's not going to make a bit of difference.
This is
So
why loyalty and customer loyalty and niche groups and very tight knit groups are becoming more and more important. People that are becoming advocates. So they
Mm,
had Chick-fil-A had this thing called raving fans. Not
mm,
I'm not hearing that as much in the marketplace, but raving fans is very important because they've got to they've got to be able to love everything you're about and really promote it and what really want to promote it. Like I'm probably going to bring my kid to Chick-fil-A on Saturday because they're closed on Sunday. So I'm going to try to go there, and while I'm at it, I might bring a few other people.
yeah.
I'm not always going there on on Saturday, but I'm saying like it might be part of my routine, and I may want to bring other people along just because it makes sense.
Right.
Again, raving fans.
Yep. Yep. So the moat lesson here is knowing when to not move is a competitive skill. The strongest businesses make decisions based on fundamentals, not FOMO. Timing your big moves around competitors are what competitors are doing is how you end up playing defense forever. So, on the one hand, know the timing of things, but at the same time, do what you need to do to move forward to get the best outcomes for your business. It takes discernment. It takes lots of information, but it knowing when to move and how to move is very very important.
Agreed. Again, it's execution.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to use baseball terms all the time as well, because the reality is like you're not always in defense mode, and not everyone's out on the field at the same time either.
Yep.
Like not every team's playing. You can only have two teams at the same time. It's like, can you imagine a world in which three baseball teams are trying to play the same game? Like
Yeah.
I can't, it's like,
Right.
all right, who's playing defense? Who's playing offense? Well, we're both playing offense and we're both going to play defense. It's like, well, that doesn't work.
Right.
It's kind of it turns into basically a clown show.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
um, that said, the point is that you have to decide your timing. Your timing has to be well executed. You have to figure out, okay, where are we at? Where's like, let's determine the market, okay? And the market being not the stock market, the market is my users,
Sure.
people that actually want to buy from me. And based on those users and what they want, can that translate to profitability in my company, that revenue, okay? And then while you're at it, thinking about the risk that is extremely important of like, hey, will this, will I have other competitors? Is this product not going to make it? Or is the market potentially moving away from it? Like think about the probability of that risk as well as the potential of it happening. So like potential of it happening and the severity of it. So how severe is that risk? Am I going to lose my whole business if I'm doing this or not, et cetera? And then lastly is think through the ways in which you can innovate, things that you can do differently within that product and that structure to keep the edge. So as long as you're able to keep the edge or stay ahead or have something that's brand new, that has a market, that has a desire, that has the demand,
Yeah.
you're able to translate all four of those, you can find something that's really, truly valuable.
Nice. I like it. All right. So Sam, I got another story for you. This one
Okay.
is about
Well,
law firms because I
okay.
like law firms.
You do.
I come out of legal. I got a soft spot for lawyers, law firm owners. I know those business models really well.
Only fair, we talked about financial professionals and financial companies last episode, so that
Yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah. So, law firms are cutting up to 10% of their workforce. Baker McKinsey is laying off between 600 and 1,000 employees. That's about 10% of their global workforce. The strategic shift is part of moving towards AI, like a lot of companies. I mean, Facebook, uh, laid off a lot of people because they're moving towards AI. This trend is now spreading across professional services, consulting, and finance, with firms like Accenture, HSBC, and TCS each cutting thousands more.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I am not a bit surprised. I bet there was a lot of unnecessary roles, or like there's just a lot of like in my experience, law firms tend to be um, like they don't work like normal businesses. they they have a lot of practices that are not um, common to the like what would be normal business practices. They're operating like way behind the times. So now, obviously, now Mackenzie Baker or Baker McKenzie, that's a very big firm. Um, th- those really big AM 100 law firms, they operate more like a business. That being said, um, this AI, AI is really disrupting things, and especially as it progresses. And like we talked about, Kirkland Ellis or recently, that they are building their own proprietary in-house AI. We'll see what that actually does, if that actually becomes a moat for them. I think it very well could be, if it's like executed correctly. But yeah, it's speeding up workflows, and it's also making traditional billing models not work so well. So a lot of lawyers, they work on a billable hour model. I don't really see that as being compatible with AI. I think there's going to have to be a shift to include other billing models, whether that be value-based billing or flat fee, or some kind of hybrid where some of it's flat fee, some of it's hourly. Like there's a few different ways to approach that subject, but something needs to be done, because all of a sudden we've built in all these efficiencies, and an hourly billable model doesn't work the way it used to.
Yeah, and I'll say something funny real quick. Is I had someone at church. They mentioned that they were a token lawyer, and I was like, okay, I don't know what that means. And he says, "You pay me by the word." And I had to laugh, because it's like reality is like, with AI, you're basically like on these frontier models. If you're using their back end as a connection, you're paying based on the token, and you may pay a couple bucks per million tokens, which is quite a few books, if you think about it, both sending and receiving,
Yeah.
and all that. But I was like, man, that is a completely different term than I remember it being. I was like, that is you are changing it too fast for me. I'm not ready for this. Um, but the point is that um, you know lawyers are paid for a couple different reasons. My biggest understanding of it, again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't own a law firm. But what I will say, my understanding is to win. Okay, you're essentially paid to win, but win an argument of words. Um, and again, I'm just oversimplifying it from a business standpoint. And the reality is if you can win for your client for whatever that be, whether you're settling or you're coming to a decision of some sort, whether you're getting the words right and you're paid for, like, okay, let's get this contract. And I've seen and interacted with a bunch of different types of lawyers too, preferably contract lawyers, because I'm working on something that's giving me money. But what I will say is that there's a large amount of accuracy that is required. And so there's this big issue right now, okay, which actually translates to the news that you're mentioning too. I think it's really a downstream aspect that we're going to see that they're making not a great move. And so the decision is that there are law firms that bring in, either have an intern write something up. They use AI to do it. It does all this research, and you have hundreds of sources. So it looks pretty when you're pulling it out. It's like, oh, we had 506, some odd resources and sources that we sourced all this information. Okay, great. I'm so glad. It looks like it's in the right order. It's in a good format. And then you present it and you're like, what is this garbage?
Right.
it's like
Right.
why are the sources not verified, and why
Right.
is the information that you're quoting not even in the source, or why is this case not even exist? We're seeing that over and over and over again, and in
We
fact there's a need for fact checkers just in a court of law,
Yeah.
and judges are getting upset at it, the fact that they're bringing all this bogus information in.
You're absolutely right, and that is a considerable risk. I was not surprised when I heard about hallucinated cases being brought up like 2 years ago, 3 years ago at this point. But the fact that it's still a reoccurring problem, I have a close friend. He's an ethics counsel. Like that's what he does is he defends lawyers when they have malpractice issues, and um, it's like we trade stories. Like it's just surprising how often these mistakes continue to get being they continue to be made, and so yeah, no, the accuracy is a big part of it. I would also say that um, lawyers need to realize the value that they bring and maybe reimagine the billing, their the way they monetize things to be more in line with the intangible value that they bring. The you know they have a specialized skill set. They can see problems that other people can't see. They not only see issues, but they see legal issues. They have a very an expert mind when it comes to certain ways things have played out in the courts, and so that is expertise that is very hard to replicate, and so there's a real need to have an expert who knows how this is going to play out should this go to court, or this contract has this loophole within it, or we can approach it this way. And so like lawyers need to realize that they bring a certain value of expertise, of discernment to the table. And I mean, some of what the client is buying is they're not buying hours, they're not buying uh, words, as you were saying, but they're buying a level of comfort, level of peace of mind, a level of making sure that like verification from a third party that this is actually going to hold up for you in court. This is actually going to allow you to get paid. This isn't going to cause you a bunch of pain down the road because they can get out of this contract, or whatever the issue might be. So there's a lot of things to think about, and I think the legal industry will sooner or later reimagine how they get paid and the value that they bring.
I agree. I agree. And on that same note, I think it's very important to say that, okay, well, not only the cases that are public, but also the cases that I have personally that have been judged on are part of my database, and I can go and reference. And when I
Yes.
go and collect sources, it's only from those documents.
Correct.
And so
Correct.
I think that's a source. You got to have a source of truth. If the source of truth is just, I'm going to go and search out in the ether, that's a real problem. If
Right.
you can say my source of truth are only these things and only this particular source right here, that's going to be much better in the long run, especially if you're using AI.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that if you're using a large language model today, for those that don't know, if you're using a large language model today, it's going to hallucinate. And hallucination is basically like you're just either flat out wrong, or you think you're right and you're actually wrong. It's like, for instance, I was pulling in. I have a Trader Joe's and a Starbucks right next to each other, and I'm going to the Starbucks. I had ordered my coffee. I was out of coffee. I was like half with it. I had just dropped my son off, and I was like, not like, I was very tired, and I was like, I'm gonna order coffee. It's like right there. I can go zoom in there and get to the thing I need to go to very quickly because I just don't have the time to brew coffee today. And I go to pull in to the Starbucks. I pulled into the parking spot and got out of my car, and I looked up and I said, "Why am I going into the Trader Joe's?" That is a hallucination. And it happens all the time. We just don't think of it as a hallucination. We just say, oh, we're correcting our action.
Yeah, we made a
Well,
mistake.
and
Well,
yeah,
mistakes
but the
happen.
final was, yeah, it was an honest mistake because I was just sitting there on autopilot, kind of half with it, and needed to go get coffee and needed the caffeine to be able to understand that I needed to go to the right place.
Well, you were looking for the long-term solution. The coffee is in Trader Joe's. You didn't, maybe you had a kind of a battle of conscious versus subconscious there.
Exactly. And so what happens in these models is, so from a technical viewpoint, what happens in these models is there's certain weights of things. When I run it over these many, many times, there may be particularly higher weights on some aspect of the language that you use. What you put in there, it says, oh, I'm focusing on this. So let's say this is my right answer, this is my wrong answer. Doesn't work like that in AI, but let's just, for visual cue, this is my right answer, this is my wrong answer. I don't want to end up here. But this has a larger weighting than this one. So therefore, it's going to take my answer and it's going to pull that down. So some things are going to be hallucinated. So I may end up quoting things or asking for, it may be asking or doing things that I'm not entirely sure. Did I, like, for instance, did I end up in the right parking lot? Yes. Did I end up on the right side of the parking lot? No. One of those two things was a hallucination, and one was not in line with reality. And I quickly corrected it. The problem with AI is that the response has already been made. There is not a correcting mechanism
Yep.
within those language models to say this was wrong and this is right. And so we have now all these sophisticated ways to go and say, well, okay, we'll have our retrieval augmented generation system to go back. Then there's the embedding layers. Then there's, hey, I'm going to do a loop search, and we're gonna verify this answer is right. And then we have now agents and assistants to make sure this is right. And now we have skills that you can go and do to try to make sure this is right. And the reality is that only gets us closer and closer to the weight. That doesn't actually fix the problem. So, so if I'm putting that in a realistic case, do I end up at the same parking lot? Yes, but maybe I end up closer to the Starbucks, but not quite there. I'm like, well, I still didn't end up there. I'm gonna have to go and walk, and I'm gonna have to make some adjustments to get there. Or maybe maybe I ended up across the street, but it's logistically closer than it was when I was at the Trader Joe's. So there's all these different things that can happen with a large language model, and which is quote unquote AI, with all these other systems with it, is that it's still going to hallucinate. The reality is that you're not going to get 100% as long as you're using a large language model. You have to use something different, and there is nothing different right now, and that's the
Yeah.
problem. That's a real, like, there is quote unquote other models, but they're performing the same way right now.
Yeah, and I mean that highlights the need for humans in the loop, and that's what I keep talking about. Is that I think a lot of professional services, they can be sped up, but you're going to still need a lawyer to like verify the information, and actually make sure that those citations are accurate and correct and um, you know organized properly. You're going to need accountants to still go through and verify that the information is accurate. And so it still takes time for a human to do that. And it still requires a level of expertise and understanding of how things are done, and where maybe some issues could be some common mistakes that things to look out for. And so I really see that quality control, the ability to verify this stuff is going to continue to be a very needed thing for at least at least the next few years
Yeah,
until things get
and
better.
agreed. And then on the same note, and to go back to the original piece of news that you mentioned earlier, Kyle. Let's say for instance I'm a business and I'm not doing as well as I expected, and I can use now the guise of AI to say, "Hey, we've done this other thing for AI, and we're going to make cuts." So there's two main ways that I'm seeing companies let go. Number one, legitimately, like AI has replaced your job. We're going to just go ahead and cut costs because I can't figure out any better place for you to be. So I'm just going to say, "See you later," and they cut it. It's like a legitimate cut. Like they've replaced the people. It's usually on things that are like that you have to execute a lot of times over. It's so iterative versus qualitative, which is things that require large amounts of thinking and strategy. So the more strategy focused, creative focus that you can get, the better. Versus iterative. As long as you can stay out of the iterative lane, it's going to be better. So iterative is like I'm doing the same thing 30 times, 50 times, 100, 200, how many ever times a day. And as long as you can stay out of that lane, that's really where we're seeing AI being effective at. Um, on the other side, we have companies, and tech companies are not immune to this. And this is something that Kyle, you and I have talked about previously, is that Google, as an example, we used Google earlier. As an example, they cut a ton of people after they said, "Okay, we're going to have AI here." Then they all hired them back because they realized the AI they created, they had to train and keep in line. And they're like, "Man, we really made a bad move, and so we're going to change this." And so with that, they said, "Man, this is that we're not. Let's try not to do it again." Well, not every company's immune to that. They're probably going to do it again. Well, they're actually Google on that same aspect is losing senior developers on a different end, and that is on the research side, which is very interesting. That they've lost like five of their yeah. I think at this point now it's been five of their senior developers to Anthropic because they're the cool kid on the block right now. They really are. It's like, well, I want to go and work for the name. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
I work for Google DeepMind, and this is Google DeepMind, by the way, not something else, but Google
sure.
DeepMind
Yeah.
specifically. Um, and those developers are going over to Anthropic. The question is, what are they going to do at Anthropic? That's what I really want to know. I think they're probably working on something cool, like
Oh
maybe
yeah.
like for instance, OpenAI and their new chip that they're coming out, their AI chips, which is interesting to say the least. But I think we're going to start to see shifts in those that have high levels of creativity and technical experience that can take the reasoning and the creativity and enter that into something technical. And you're going to see massive shifts at companies trying to make those plays of like, "Hey, I'll if you come over here, I'll give you a 50% bump in your salary, or 2x or 3x
Yeah.
or whatever I can get to get you over here." So because they're really playing the game of talent right now.
Yeah.
These are people moves, and you go and raise capital and make people moves because what are you building? Technology. This is a
Mhm.
non-physical product right now.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Let's get to our moat lesson here, and then we're gonna get into our last topic, which is time, money, or people, which we always like
Perfect.
to talk about. All right, so the moat lesson: if your service business delivers what AI can now do cheaper and faster, you don't have a moat. You have a timeline. The moat is judgment, relationships, and outcomes that AI can't replace. So, luckily for lawyers, people have to still go to court um, for
Let's say
now.
your first robo lawyer walking in, it's like, who's this guy?
Yeah, right. Um,
I'm Bart the bot. I'm
yeah.
kidding. Sorry, that's my
Th-
joke for the day. Go ahead.
this is the core question for every professional service firm right now. And I think that that's a legitimate one. I think, judgment, like I talked about, and the relationship that you have and the outcomes that you deliver are significant. But you have to remind the client, hey, I helped make this happen, and you need to keep the relationship warm. And I see a lot of professional services, um, they want to do the work, they don't necessarily want to manage the relationship. And I mean, I'm just speaking from the legal industry. I'm sure the same thing happens in a lot of other industries, but like, clients consistently say they don't feel like are informed, that they're not communicated with enough. And lawyers, surveys have shown that lawyers are saying, I want to have less client contact. I think that is a recipe for disaster, because clients are demanding more and they're saying we need less. And so there needs to be some kind of bridge there to
Hmm.
to really, you know, manage the relationship well, and communicate effectively.
So the reality is that a lot of these service-based businesses are turning into the relationship business.
Yep.
I'm seeing that with financial advisors. We're seeing that with lawyers. We're seeing that in other services that are meant to be helpful.
Yeah.
Uh, that AI has, in one way or another, or other companies have tried to automate, and it's partially working, but it's really meant to be as a help for those in service to lift up the load that they would have to take on.
Right.
There was one particular company I worked with for financial advisors. They made a heads-up display for financial advisors. It was very good. It saved the advisors a lot of time. It recorded their conversations. It flagged things that they didn't ask for when they were doing their first calls, or reviews with their clients or prospects. Um, and it was very helpful. It was truly very helpful, and it saved them a ton of time. And my understanding is recently that's getting added or folded into a financial planning system, which will then basically from beginning to end, the advisors focusing on the relationship aspects and the habits of those. So you're going to see some. It's almost like a financial advisor turning into a psychologist of like, please don't spend this money on this. This is a terrible thing. It's like you're, this thing that you're is going to be very temporary and high cost that you're going to regret later. Don't spend money on. Like you're going to see things like that start to come over and over and over again, um, to the point where it's going to be very relationship focused. So lawyers are going to be the same thing. They're like, okay, well, you're hiring me because I'm so accurate on these things. Well, the reality is that you've got a lot of due diligence. You've got to ask some really good questions. Are you asking the right questions? Is there things that you're just not considering? Are you looking, are you reading their body language? Are you understanding like how they're answering the question, not just what they're answering, but how they're answering the question, which could lead to other things that you need to ask questions on. So we're going to see again these iterative things on repeat for AI, and saying, hey, we just need to focus on this relationship and the quality of the information that's coming in. Which is why we have the rise of context engineering right now. We're going to see the push this year into next year of context engineering, both on AI and in businesses. It's like, well, what was the actual context? Why were they saying this? Who was saying it? When were they saying it? And why was that relevant for that period of time? So from those that are in the service-based business, I know we're only mentioning legal and finance, but there's plenty of other places that this applies to. Maybe I'm going and buying a business and the owner is only telling me part of the information.
Right.
It's like, I need to ask better questions. I need to do my due diligence. All these private equity companies, or maybe you got people are just buying one business, or maybe you got multiple buyers buying a business, or a few businesses. There's a few other mixes in there, but you're going to want to ask better questions. Just because the numbers line up doesn't mean it's a great buy. There could be things hidden that you just don't know. Oh, wait, there probably is. And a lot of times you find out after the honeymoon.
Yep. After you make the purchase and you realize,
After the
yeah,
purchase. That's why I say a honeymoon. It's the honeymoon
yeah,
phase.
yep. Well, Sam, let's transition to our three favorite levers: time, money, or people. Totally did that
Pull the
wrong.
lever. I love
Time,
it.
money, or people. There we go.
Yep.
Fingers couldn't finger for a moment.
Got five of them, but only three things that we're pulling.
Yeah, that's right. So, um, on the subject that we just talked about, this AI restructuring, what do you think it is? Time, money, or people?
Two different answers depending on what they're actually doing. If it's a real cut, or if it's just a guise of I just need to have better cost structuring in my business, or I need to remove talent that is very low grade,
Right.
because not everyone's cut to be at the same business, and that's the reality. So I think this is really one half it's a money play, and the other it's a people play. So if I have a bunch of D and C talent in my company, that's bloat. And you got to say goodbye. And the reality is those people that are C and D might be A plus players at a different company. You're really doing them a disservice. And
Mm.
so it's very important to make sure that you're making your cuts for the right reasons. And those people are going to be in a better place, probably better financially. I don't know. But I would definitely say in a better business and a better fit. There's a lot of people that are unhappy with their roles that are out there. The numbers are very high. It's like 60% or something like that like don't like their job, and I'm like, why would you ever want to go and work at a job that you hate?
Right.
But I've been there and done that. There's people or companies that I wouldn't go back and work for, and
Yeah.
that's okay. But I think there's real people levers that those businesses that need to cut for a cause, or for the right reasons, need to pull that people lever. The other ones, I think it's a money play. Even if they're they've had a great year. There's a couple in the news already, had a great year, but they still made cuts because of quote unquote AI replacing. Well, maybe they wanted better revenue and they were lazy and they didn't want to put those people into better positions or into the right positions to make them more money.
Yeah,
So too.
I do think that I think you're exactly right that it's a little bit situational in this one, but yeah, they either have bloat and they're trying to cut some people, and they're seeing this as a good opportunity, like a good thing to blame it on, a convenient narrative, to get rid of some people that they have probably kept too long anyway. And then other people are saying like, hey, we just want to make more money, and so we're going to um, cut our staff and invest more in this AI, and it's a play to get more money and become more efficient. So, but I think the ones that do it right, the ones that will continue to build their moat, will invest in people, the right people, so that they can manage relationships well, that they are you know mm, they have really good judgment. They're still delivering that outcome consistently. If you get inconsistent results, that's not good for your business. So the McDonald's might not be the best food ever, but I can go to a McDonald's in California or in Florida, and it's basically the same thing. Like it's very consistent, and there that's something very valuable for them. So let's go on to Databricks, and the company saying that the CEO saying it's a terrible year to IPO. Time, money, or people? What do you think?
Time. It's time. The reality is it's improper timing. Ken Cunningham, the book The Road Less Stupid,
Mm.
one of my favorite books. It's a very meaty read. It's very, 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 very meaty. It takes time. You've got to spend time. Like you finish a chapter and section, and you're like, I got to ask all these questions. I got to spend like a whole day on this before I even go to the next thing. He even encouraged you to do that. Um, the reality is that uh, the things that make sense today may not make sense tomorrow, but they may make sense the next day.
Yep.
And that's the crazy thing. It's like, I used to always say this phrase. It's like whatever's good today will be good tomorrow.
Yeah, that's not
Uh,
always true. I
and
mean,
it's not always true. And I'm like, well, a good product today will be a good product tomorrow. But what if I made horse and buggies today? And I was like, oh man, if it's a good product today, it'll be a good product tomorrow. Well, the reality is maybe it's a stellar product. Okay, maybe it's something that people want. People still buy horse and buggies today.
sure.
It's just not the same addressable market. The market has moved into other things like cars, for instance.
Correct. Correct.
And so, um, just because it's a good idea today doesn't mean it's a good idea tomorrow. Like, or let's say, for instance, there's still an addressable market, but the last horse and buggy company that was making a couple $1 million just went out of business. Well, it may make sense just to go and buy your own business and start up.
How about this? It might make a lot of sense in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But
Amish
it's
country, yeah.
yeah, but it's not going to make a whole lot of sense in Silicon Valley.
No, no, they're not buying horse and buggies out there.
Right.
Most likely, I'm sure there might be one or two, but not
Yeah, and
nearly the
I
volume.
think having an understanding of the times, um, you know, makes a lot of sense, and I agree with you there. All right, for this last one, Google wanting to own the entire shopping experience, time, money, or people. Um, what do you think, Sam?
That's a tough one because this is emerging, so it's almost like a
Yeah,
forecast that you got to
yeah.
make.
I agree, and I feel like this one is tough.
So the reality is, since it's a forecast and it's something that they're putting their attention to, time, money, and attention are the main things that you do into the things that you're forecasting in the future endeavors. Um, and so, if I'm looking at that, I'm probably looking at the amount of money that I've got to put into it to get a return on investment of
right,
some sort. So, return on investment not is a financial term, but this is internal, not external. Internal of like I can find customers, I can get revenue from this. They've got the demand is there, they're willing to pay, and I'm going to try to figure out a way to get and bridge that gap. So money in that regard of ROI.
yeah. I mean, there is a time component. Obviously, it's going to be a shift to implement this. It sounds like they already got some big brands on board, like Nike and Walmart. I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than Walmart. But the issue is, yeah, I mean, how much value can they extract from this? And is it worth the time? Do they have a or and the money that it's going to cost to put this in? Are they going to see a return on that? So yeah, I guess overall it's somewhat of a time issue. It's somewhat of a money. It's more of a money issue, I would say. Analyzing, what your investment is going to take and how big of a return you can see from it. All very important considerations.
Yeah, and on the same thing, you have to understand the psychology around the buying experience,
Correct.
especially in person. So if this is brick and mortar, you're going in. There's I can't tell you the amount of products that I pick up to like make a actual decision on in my household.
Hmm.
It's like, well, let's say I'm going. We talked about beauty products last episode, so let's stick on that one. Maybe I want to go buy shampoo. Okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna look around. I might want to smell it. Like, there's gonna be the sensation. Like, I want to see, like, well, is this something that I actually want to put on my body, or do I want to spend, 5, 10, some odd dollars buying
Right.
this bottle that I'm gonna just return or not like? I'm not gonna do that. Like, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna want to have to go through the senses of that. And then I might consider things like price, depending on the amount of income, discretionary income and disposable income that I have as a buyer. I may decide, okay, well, I'm going to buy the Great Value brand because it smells close enough, again,
Right.
you mentioned,
Yeah.
Walmart, so
Right.
like the
No,
great
no.
value versus the branded logo.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, they're coming out of the same place. They smell close enough, and it'll get the job done. So I'm going to pull this and spend a few dollars less. No, that extra $2 can maybe go to my kid who wants an ice cream at the ball game.
Yeah. Right.
At his local baseball game. So like, there's all sorts of things that you're really making these decisions on, and comparing and contrasting. And it's very hard as a business to decide on what are they actually contrasting when there might be 100 or 1,000 or a million different decisions going through their head, to make that decision.
Yeah. It sounds like an interesting problem to solve, but it sounds complex. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the time for our for the moat. Sam, if somebody wants to learn about Chief Go officers, what should they do?
They should just go ahead and keep swiping through. No, I'm kidding. But if they want to find out about us, chiefgoofficers.com. We are business leaders, so fractional leaders for your business. We help you understand both the strategy, and then if you don't have the time or people to do it, we will help with that as an exchange. So go to chiefgoofficers.com, explore us, ask different questions. Feel free to book a call with us, to be able to ask those questions, work through, figure out like your business situation and what that could mean for the problem that you're currently going through. Of course, you can always come on here. We're live Tuesday through Thursday now, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, right around the lunch hour. So we'd love to have you. If you haven't, hit that like button, subscribe. Would love to have you. But we're Chief Go Officers. I'm the co-founder, Sam Robinson, and we have Kyle Harbaugh here today. Would love to talk with you.
All right. Well, thanks everybody, and as always, keep building your